I'm sure you've heard of the dropshipping logistics model. And most of the time, when someone mentions dropshipping, you think of gurus selling cheap products and mainly a flashy, rich lifestyle from the people that have found success with it. There are countless stories and videos online about how dropshipping has changed people's lives for the better. They have time freedom, financial freedom, and generally they're wealthier than the average 9-to-5 worker. But what you don't see is how dropshipping can completely ruin your life. Let's take two different people for an example. One is Joe Smith and the other is Brad Johnson. Joe Smith is a 17-year-old kid who doesn't really do well in school. He doesn't come from a background of wealth and generally just doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. Being lost and with the pressure from peers and parents, Joe feels like he needs to figure out a career path that's going to work for him. And Joe, like every other 17-year-old kid, spends a lot of time on TikTok. It's on there that he stumbles across dropshipping. He watches a couple dropshipping motivational videos about kids who never went to college, who are dropshipping and living this lavish lifestyle. And Joe wants to be like that. He resonates with those stories. So Joe dives right in. He does a ton of research, watches some YouTube videos, takes courses, and now he feels like it's actually easier than he previously thought. And he's got nothing to lose and everything to gain, so he gives it a shot. Joe works on his store for a month. He follows every guide meticulously, listens to advice from people online, and even some peers that he's connected with on the internet. At this point, Joe's motivation levels are high. He daydreams about what his life is going to be like once this works. He wakes up every day excited to work on his online business, and he thinks that this is the thing that is going to change his life. But after a month of trying, Joe realizes that he spent all of his savings on advertisements. And unfortunately for Joe, nothing worked. He literally blew the last amount of his savings and he can't figure it out. He loses his self-confidence in starting an online business, and now he doesn't even believe people online are actually making money doing this. And then ultimately, Joe quits. We're going to come back to Joe, but let's move on to Brad. Brad is in a very similar situation as Joe, being 19 years old, not in college, and ultimately doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. He goes down the same rabbit hole that Joe went down and stumbles across dropshipping on YouTube or TikTok. And Brad, with just $500 to his name, studies the exact same material as Joe. He also believes that he can find success in an online business and gives it a shot. Now Brad tries dropshipping for his first month. His motivation is at an all-time high. He's excited to get up in the morning and work on his business, and he grinds for the entire month. And to your surprise, he ends up just like Joe. He lost his savings, his motivation has deteriorated to nothing, and he's starting to question if it even works at all. But Brad is a little bit different than Joe. He simply does not give up. He pulls himself out of this self-pity and fake motivates himself to keep going. He pivots his marketing angles, switches his advertising methods to free routes, and A/B tests additional variables within the next month. The month is over and Brad did it. He put all of the marketing puzzle pieces together and he made his $500 back. Now Brad reinvests that money into what's currently working and continues to A/B test and sharpen his skills in marketing, web design, and ad creatives. He scales up his store, increases his advertisement spend, and in the next full month, Brad makes $10,000 profit. Brad has done it. Those are the two scenarios and stories of Joe versus Brad. Now looking at these two examples, you're probably going to say that Joe is the one that ruined his life. And in this case, you'd be wrong. Brad is now actually the one that has his life ruined. Here's why. Let's go back to the aftermath of Joe. Joe tried, he blew his savings, and he ultimately failed. But assuming Joe completely gives up trying to start his own business, he goes into a college or a trade program, essentially a more traditional route of work. He is now placed in the corporate program. He is exactly where the education system, big corporations, and society want him to be. He's now a gerbil in the machine. Don't get me wrong, good for Joe. Joe has a pretty steady job, he can cover all of his bills, and lives a very modest life. In the eyes of society, that's exactly where Joe needs to be. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Therefore, Joe is not ruined. Now let's catch up with Brad. Brad went on to continue running his store, making about $10,000 to $20,000 profit a month. He now realizes that he can offload a lot of his work that he's doing to VAs, and he essentially buys back his time. Now Brad has another 7 work hours or available opportunity, and he decides to start a second business. He realizes that he's fantastic at web design. He can design websites that are aesthetically pleasing and have a high conversion rate. Brad takes this high income skill that he learned and builds out a website agency. He creates a portfolio of websites that he's built with the results that he's received from them. And he also creates some case studies and starts reaching out to small businesses that desperately need a website fix. Brad lands some clients building out websites for companies, and now this has generated him an additional $10,000 profit a month. Now, Brad does the exact same thing that he did with his dropshipping business. He hires a team and teaches them exactly how to build these beautifully crafted websites. Brad once again has bought his time back. But Brad is ruined. Now you're probably thinking, how on earth is Brad ruined? But Brad is ruined in the eyes of the education system. He is the outcast. He is the man that broke free of the system and was able to avoid being another cog in the machine. You see, once you get a true taste of success in building your own business or entrepreneurship in general, you essentially become unemployable. You've now realized the true value of the dollar and what your time is worth. Even if all of Brad's businesses go completely into the trash can, he never again will trade an hour of his time for a set wage. He has the knowledge of building a business and what it actually takes to succeed. He now knows that if he works hard on something and dedicates his time and doesn't quit when he hits any little road bump along the way, he will persevere. And in the eyes of the education system and big corporations, Brad is ruined. I know this is a fictional, made-up scenario, but in reality, I'm Brad. I've been way too far removed from the corporate workplace to ever go back, no matter what happens to any of my businesses. It truly is a unique and freeing feeling. My last and only piece of advice to anyone that's watched this far into the video, first of all, thank you. And second of all, don't quit. Don't quit when you run out of money. Don't quit when you hit a road bump. And especially don't quit when peers tell you that it's not going to work. Keep your head down, continue to learn, and you too will be free. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.